members of our Congress, you will always have within our government those that are above the law. Hey, it's me. And as you can tell, liberals refuse to accept election results again. In 2016, they also asked for recounts. And for the next almost 2 years, they were crying about it, trying to undo the election. And now in Arizona and Florida, they're just engaging in election fraud like it's nothing. And they always use the same system. They have rooms full of ballot boxes to use in case of an emergency. Because they're so arrogant, they always feel like they're going to win. And election fraud, it's not nothing. So they won't only do it in a case of emergency. And so they saw the Florida races were pretty close, so they engaged the election fraud plan, and the ballots came out. And of course, they're all for Democrats, for the Democrat, Bill Nelson and Gulam. And they think that we don't realize that, but there's a difference. We have a Republican president, and he already warned Democrats before the election not to cheat, but they can't help themselves. They have to cheat. And so in the Choco years, Choco himself cheated in 2008, 2012. God knows how many votes were fake. And that's what you have when you have Democrats in charge. It's rampant cheating. And of course, if you look at President Trump, he will go after this because it's a great way to expose what Democrats are doing. And you're preventing more election fraud in 2020 if you deal with these people now in a very hard way, and you let them know that you're not going to tolerate it, because over the many years past, Democrats have become used to it. They feel like it's okay. But you have to wonder, if liberals claim to be all that in our nation, then why do they have to cheat? Why? I mean, they cheat before elections, during elections, after elections. They cheat with the confirmation process for Kavanaugh. They cheat with everything. Even Spygate is a form of cheating. And lying about the Russia collusion story, that's cheating. The whole Mueller probe is cheating. Everything's cheating. And if you're a political party and you rely on felons and illegal aliens to win elections, then you're done. It's kind of like some guys out there, and I guess I was one of those guys 15 years ago. You're young and naive, and you fall in love, but it doesn't work out. But the sex was great, and you could talk about everything, and you had ice cream together, and you went ice skating, but it doesn't work out. And some guys cannot move on. It's like they think they cannot get better. They think they got what they needed and that everything planned out. And it's not just guys, it's women too, right? Women stalk me, for example, for that reason. And it's like you cannot give up. You're living in the past because you're not going to get better. That's how liberals are. Because they had Hillary lined up and another 2 terms, and they could really fulfill the agenda because Choco was a failure. He couldn't get that much done. But they were relying on the next person, Hillary in this case, and the whole machine, not that Hillary Clinton herself is such a brainiac, but to have the power and to enable the radical changes, they were looking forward to it. And to additional Supreme Court justices, or even 3 or 4, making the Supreme Court totally liberal. They lost all that. And they blame 2016 and losing, so they cannot get over it. It's not just Hillary Clinton that is a sore loser and one of those, obsessive girls living in the past, stalking Donald Trump. And they're crazy. They're stuck in the past. And they're always thinking about what could have been and, would have, should have, could have. And here we are. And now in the midterms, they were expecting a giant blue wave. And no. In fact, in the Senate, we increased the majority, which is incredible. I mean, it's defying history, and they can't stand it. And again, they're in stalking mode and cheating again. So it's almost like the Democratic Party as a whole, liberals as a whole, progressives, they were so powerful in the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, especially in Congress. But now, they just lucked out getting the House because, the House elections, it's really based on populations and districts in many liberal areas. For example, California and New York have many, many seats, and so it's easier for them to get a majority in the House because it's really based on the numbers of people that vote. Whereas the Senate, it's like every state gets 2 senators. That's it. And so even a tiny state gets 2 senators compared to California, 2 senators. So you all have an equal say, as it were. But in the House, it's a different story. But they've been used to having a giant majority, and now that they regained it, guess what happens right afterwards? Antifa's out in the streets again, harassing people, and they're doing crystal nacht on Tucker Carlson and others. They're behaving like Nazis in 1930s Germany, going to people's houses and, breaking windows and all of that. It's crystal nacht. These are fascists, and that's because, they're headed by people that pay them to do this because they have this fantasy. The left wing is really fascist in its nature. Everything they're accusing President Trump of, they're the ones that are doing it. You can see it. And that includes assault on females. If you saw that Jim Acosta hitting that girl's arm, wow, if that was my girlfriend, damn, that guy would have another thing coming, I can tell you that. I can't believe he's not arrested. I just can't believe it. And, these people on the left, they don't care. Because, criminals, felons are part of their voter base. So they can't really go after people. But what I'm saying is that they have this character trait. They're sore losers. And that is because they feel like they cannot get better. Like I wrote in a post at the Trump Mafia headquarters, they're going to have a lot of trouble finding somebody who's popular in all of America, who is a normal person, and that can win elections. It's going to be so hard for them, especially when Trump's here. Trump's going to be reelected. It's just a sacrificial lamb that will be the person running against Trump in 2020. So I guess it will be some kind of a doofus. Maybe Beto the Beta, that idiot that ran against Ted Cruz. And of course he can't win. He's a complete idiot. But that's what I'm saying. The Democratic Party doesn't have anything. They don't have a message. They don't have an organization. And sure, they have control of the House, but that's only by the virtue of how the system is structured. But other than that, they have nothing. But their advantage is they have 95% of the media. They control education. So from the get-go, people are programmed. And those people in the big cities, Democrats really rely on the East Coast, West Coast, the big cities, the urban areas, because people there are very influenced by celebrities, artists, and of course social media and the media in general. So they're also programmed in a way, and there's a lot of peer pressure. And you have a mixed bag of people that, it's more like the United Nations instead of the United States. And so they don't really care about sovereignty or secure borders. And that's how come these people end up voting Democrat. But a lot of truth is in that even Democrats, moderate Democrats, have a lot of common sense. Even though they may hate Trump, they like what he's doing. Because the economy is really booming and everything feels better. And as you know, in the Choco years, even in 2009, And 2010 afterwards, you had bombs going off everywhere, Islamic attacks, Antifa, Black Lives Matter, Black Panthers. And what happened to our nation? Well, the truth is, the Choco administration was funding all of these far left-wing groups and racial groups through the DOJ. They had a secret fund, not to mention all the other types of funding and the moral support, because if you have domestic terrorists in the White House, then all the domestic terrorists all around our nation feel like they have a free pass to go out there and burn stuff. And that's what they're doing. But, you know, you may not agree with me, but I'm sure President Trump agrees with me when I say that these are wussies. You know, you send 10 paid-for wussies to somebody's house, they're protected because, they're only protesting, and the D.C. police is weak. And they're shouting threats and whatnot. It scares the people in the house, Tucker Carlson and his wife, but these are wussies. You know, if that happened to me, I would go out there and I would beat up 10 of these wussies, because these are not tough guys. These are emos, and you know the type. I mean, put these 10 wussies in an alleyway with 10 MS-13 guys. What do you think would happen? I mean, we're talking about AstroTurf. We're talking about isolated incidents. It's a tiny, tiny fraction of people. I mean, we're talking about, 10 people getting media attention, so it seems like it's bigger than what it is. And that's really the media, the fake news media, because they amplify everything they wish, even the fake polls. And cable news, they act like they're talking to 300 million people, but if you look at the viewership, it's not that many people. And if you look at these protests or whatnot, it's always paid for. It's always very small. So in liberal cities, you get 1,000, or let's say even 2,000 people out there. I mean, that's less than the average Trump rally in a small city. But what I'm saying is that when you look at those protests, you will see some people there and they're like, climate change. Or some other people are like, LGBTQ rights, right now. So it's like a bunch of miscellaneous left-wing activists, and it's not all about one issue. I mean, they just like to protest. I mean, that's the nature of these people. So when you see a counter-protest, then you're talking about other left-wingers, because we don't do that. It's left-wing activism. And if you have counter-protesters and they're pretending, we're the right, no, they're actually leftists. Like what happened in Charlottesville. Those are two groups of leftists that, they're just different types of leftists. And it's usually that one of the leftist groups is for illegal immigration, and the other leftist group is against illegal immigration. But that does not make them conservative. What I'm saying is they act the same. They're the same types of people. It's liberal activism and liberal behavior. And so you have liberals that hate illegal aliens, and you have left-wingers that embrace illegal aliens. But they're both liberal activists. I see no difference. They act in the same retarded way. So Antifa or Proud Boys, these are the same types of leftists. And it just so happens that both groups are organized by foreigners, the Hungarian Soros and the Canadian English McGuinness. But if you look at the LGBTQ Proud Boys or the LGBTQ Ninja Antifa, I mean, that's leftism. You can tell by the way they're acting. I mean, that's leftism. And usually people don't care about the differences because the media makes it that there is a stark difference. But, when I see, for example, boycotts, this is really the difference because, you have liberals with gimmicks that, they're against illegal immigration, so they call themselves conservatives, but they're acting like liberals all the time. When it comes to boycotts, I mean, that's a liberal thing to do. That's left-wing activism. Conservatives don't do that. Real conservatives don't do that. Here's a difference. So if they don't like something, a company, a product, they will organize a collective boycott. Or like, let's boycott that. And it's like, where we all go, we all boycott. Or WW boycott, one boycott. And it's like a collective, it's left-wing. That is left-wing activism. Whereas the conservative side would be that you're in a shopping mall as an individual in the free market. You pass a Nike shop and you suddenly remember that guy disrespecting our flag, the anthem, and Nike really pushing this guy forward, and you just don't want to spend your dollars in that shop. And you go to Adidas or another brand, and that's it. But there's no, hey, let's all boycott and going out on the streets. That's left-wing activism. So whenever you see a lot of us talking about boycott this, boycott that, those are liberals talking. And I'm sorry to say that because many of them call themselves conservatives, but they're not. Because if you act like a liberal, you talk like a liberal, and you do what liberals do, then you're a liberal. Just because you are against illegal immigration, that does not unliberal you. You're still a liberal. The way you act, everything. I mean, it's in you. And it's pretty scary to see people on our side calling for regulation. Regulate YouTube. I mean, that's a left-wing, that's net neutrality. The same way, let's boycott. Again, leftism, and it's everywhere. So that's when I realized that we're in more trouble than we think, because many people on our side, I know I'm always talking about this, it's not just the right-wing media, but we have a lot of liberals with gimmicks on our side calling themselves conservatives. Because at the first sign of trouble or any issue, they're engaging in left-wing activism. Boycott, regulate. I mean, it's just like, what? I'm suddenly in the middle of a bunch of liberal retards who call themselves conservatives. So we have to admit that, you know, we have a problem on our side. And, you know, also that foreign influence, I will tell you that America first means America first. If Trump creates some alliance with another nation, that's one thing. But to have this Patriots United or worldwide Patriots, that doesn't even make any sense. And again, you know, like Sloppy Steve, again reveals himself to be a socialist. Because it's a type of globalism where you want to connect people around the world. But the whole thing about America First is that it can only happen in our nation, and America First is America First. Making America great again is only related to our nation. And if people have their own problems in their nations, that doesn't mean by connecting people. I mean, I couldn't care less about Tommy Robinson or people overseas. Like, I don't like the EU, and I feel bad for the UK, that what they turned out to be, and that Brexit is taking so long. To be honest, I don't give a flying fish fornication. Because it's America first. I mean, let people deal with their own nation, right? And if I see one more article, you know, like, this is the Trump of Brazil, or this is the Trump of Austria, this is the Trump of Zimbabwe. It's like, no. There's only one Donald J. Trump. We got him. He's made in America. We got him. And there's no Trump in Brazil. Dream on. You wish. You wish. And that's what I'm saying. I mean, what are these people? What is Steve Bannon doing overseas? And he's going to sell the magic, making America great again formula in other nations. Does he understand that other nations are not the United States of America? I mean, what is this guy? I mean,